I guess I want to start off with, I know you guys just came back from Aduna Summit in Spain last week, so maybe you can tell us a bit about what, the outcome or the gist of that conversation, and also kind of give us a bit of a perspective of, what's happening today on the Telco API, open gateway in the US, with the carriers, with the enterprise, Aduna coming from the supply side, Infobip, example from the demand side. So we have two perspectives of where the state of the market is. So maybe I'll kick off with questions to Alicia. What's going on today with Telco API, what Aduna is doing, where do you see the market is, readiness, use cases.
A very quick summary of a very large question. Perfect.
Exactly.
And I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of folks last night, and what I learned was wonderfully, everyone at least seemed to have heard of Aduna, which is great, given that a year ago I think that percentage might have been different. But not everyone was really familiar with what we do, so I'm going to steal 30 seconds, hopefully, and just give a quick overview. So Aduna was founded by 12 telcos globally, most notably in the US. All 3 carriers are part of our equity shareholders, along with the 4 big Europeans, and then there are others in the Asian market. And then Ericsson as well is a 50% owner of Aduna. Our goal is to accelerate the telco network API market by solving a lot of the problems that have plagued the carriers before. So we know, okay, there's Mobile Connect. Mobile Connect has sort of worked, but not really in the way that everybody had hoped. I mean, a lot of folks in this room are selling Mobile Connect today, so obviously there's revenue, but we really believe that there could be more. And what's different this time and why Aduna is really making progress and making these changes is that the carriers have put money into this. They are our shareholders. They are acting. So we are live in the US. We are live in Europe with these APIs. They're based on CAMARA standards. And we announced that we will be live in the next 3-ish weeks as soon as testing is finished with number verification 2.1 in the US. So the difference is that we are solving these problems. The carriers are actually working together in tandem in a non-anti-competitive way to actually bring these APIs to market in a way that they haven't done that before. And so that's what Aduna's mission and goal is. And additionally, to answer the question of what we're seeing is this movement by the carriers to actually launch these APIs. Like I said, we're live in the US, we're live in Europe. We have our next set of APIs that we're launching. A lot of this is focused in the fraud prevention space. We heard a lot of the talk this morning has been about fraud being perpetrated by sometimes foreign actors, sometimes just by domestic bad actors. And part of what we do is provide these data points from the telcos to help solve these fraud issues. So banking is one of the big financial industries, big target for these APIs, but I think that we can expand beyond that. There are marketing use cases as well for wanting to know that you're sending your text message, whether it's RCS or whether it's SMS, to the person that you actually want to be sending it to, that they haven't disconnected their number, that it isn't some kind of other account, and that your money is not being wasted in these marketing efforts. So we're seeing a lot of movement. We're seeing actual action. We've moved beyond talking about what we will do to talking about what we are doing.
Thank you. So moving on the demand side, I think I'd love to hear from Marcelo. Where are we today? From maybe a year ago or 6 months ago, in terms of the use cases, the demand from the enterprise. How are you kind of orchestration this with the supply side, and where you see the market is right now?
Yeah, I think I would borrow the tagline of Infobip. We're just starting with network APIs. Last week in Madrid, there was a very good type of engagement with carriers, facilitated by Aduna. There were players like ourselves. I think the conclusion that we're getting quickly is The technology is obviously more mature. There's more awareness. There's less need to sell the technology. It's more around the use case. We, for the most part, come from this omni-channel messaging heavy ecosystem. It's not going to go away, thankfully, right? It's still paying the bills and keeping the lights on, and it's going to be there for a long time. But there is real opportunity and needs for cross-pollinating across the channels, which fits really well for the carriers. I don't see the messaging revenue being cannibalized by these things. It's good with Aduna helping solve the supply side. I think a year ago we were talking about is this a demand issue or a supply issue? We acknowledged there was a supply shortage, and Aduna helps quite a bit with that. The carriers here in the US, obviously there's always a little bit of internal friction between different levels of ownership of these channels, but I think there's more alignment in enabling this, and everybody should be winning when things start happening. But we're really in early days in the US, right? I think the use cases, there's maybe less fraud in the market in the US than some other geographies, but there is enough to be important for us to pay attention to.
So I want to kind of take into what both of you said about the use case, because I want to get into more specific. Alicia, you mentioned about fraud prevention. So I want us to expand on that. What are the specific? Where do you see the use case that are available today, and what problems that we are solving? What is the value proposition for the enterprise and the carriers? Are we moving beyond? You talk about we have the API, it's existing, but what problems are they solving? And where are we seeing the early traction and why? So, yep.
So I think the two key APIs that we have, and I know we should all be trying to move away from talking about the APIs and talking about the value that they bring or the use cases that they solve. But if I talk to this crowd, which is made up of a lot of Aduna's target customers, as we're a wholesaler, I will talk about the APIs. So number verification 1.0, which is kind of the equivalent of what's in Mobile Connect today, is live in the US. And then we've got SIM swap, which essentially you can ask, has the SIM been swapped in the last period of time? And these are really to target to the fraud prevention. We had a banking event in Dallas hosted by AT&T, I don't know, maybe like a month or two, I think it was in February. And what we heard from the banks so loudly and so clearly by every single bank that was there was that fraud is a huge problem, that they really they need more help to combat fraud. The fraudsters are always changing their methods, right? As soon as you it's like the whack-a-mole. As soon as you fix one problem, they're going to pop up somewhere else and find another vulnerability. And so what we can do with these APIs, especially the number verification 2.1, which is the next version of number verification. This one works over Wi-Fi. It also isn't susceptible to some of the latency issues that plague 1.0. It's got a new authentication method that's a little bit quicker. Now we're offering a solution that is more secure than one-time password via SMS. It's not really susceptible to phishing, right? The user doesn't really have to interact with it. There is no consent required by the carriers in the US for this API. So you get a more seamless user experience, a more secure user experience. This is what enterprises are looking for. They want the user to stay within the app. They want the user to feel like they're being able to log in very quickly and seamlessly. They want that customer journey to happen quickly, right? They don't want all of these touch points. They see fallout when you get too many touch points. So they really like this aspect of it. And it's a great complement to everything else that you guys are already offering, right? This isn't cannibalization of your offerings. We've also heard from the hyperscalers directly. Google's been very vocal about it. They are done using OTP. Facebook also done using OTP. These revenues will go somewhere else. They will find another way to solve this problem, whether it stays with the telco revenue, whether it stays with your all revenue, and number verification is that option, or whether it goes to something like a passkey. I've seen all of my applications start using, on my phone, start using passkey. Nobody gets revenue from that. No one in this room, I don't believe. The telcos certainly don't get that revenue. So if we can offer this as an even more seamless way than passkey for these users to authenticate, to mitigate fraud, that's a really, really good product.
Yep, and Marcelo, from an enterprise adoption and demand, I guess you would agree with Alicia, but also what are enterprise saying? What are they? Are they adopting? It's early adopters. What use cases that you see have seen success so far?
Yeah, I do think that BFSI as an industry is low-hanging fruit for this. Obviously, you need to educate. Really, when I said we can use the tagline of "we are just starting." Think of messaging some 20 years ago, maybe a little less. There was a lot of fragmentation, right? Sometimes the message would get through, sometimes it wouldn't. Nowadays, we have very different expectations for the channel. We know when you send an SMS, even RCS is getting up there very quickly. There is an expectation that there will be a conversion at the end of that transaction. I think network APIs are going to go through a similar path. It's going faster as well because the technology has evolved quite a bit. But there is some low-hanging fruits. There's going to be coexistence. There is considerations of cost. I was listening to the keynote with concerns about even the economics of like upgrading from SMS to RCS. Some of these items were actually discussed last week in the Aduna summit. And obviously, nobody wants to erode their revenues. For a carrier, if this is going to potentially replace a percentage of their SMS, they want to be able to make up for that in some way, shape, or form. For the enterprise, when they're using, they see all the values that we are just discussing here, right? Seamless is good. There's various generations of the workforce, especially the older people that maybe not as digitalized like most of us. They will enjoy knowing that they're less susceptible to being scammed and all those kinds of shenanigans we see, right? So I think we'll see more of that adoption, but really it's very, very early days. I think there's a ton of excitement. There's a ton of need for enablement. There's a ton of need for education. The market, for people like ourselves here in this room that speak technology day in, day out, this is relatively easy, simple, no-brainer type of thing. But the folks that will embrace and adopt, that have their digital stack, they still have to be further educated on that.
Okay. So then I think, how do we, I guess the question is to kind of expand on where we want to be in the next 12 months is how do we commercialize this? How do we scale this? How do CPaaS and service providers here position and sell API to the enterprise? What are the integrations, with other omni-channel? You said about API will complement, not replace some of the SMS traffic. How do you balance that? How do you improve the adoption? I guess, what are the thoughts around, scaling this and further?
Yeah, I'll give the first stab. I think, there's no, like I had conversations previously, like when will people start converting or substituting their OTP with seamless authentication? I think it's going to happen organically. It's not going to be a tectonic shift. They're going to test things side by side. They'll see if the economics make sense. They'll see if the use case makes sense. Obviously, we're discussing some of the low-hanging fruits here, so we'll see that happening. I think from the selling perspective, the motion of selling this capability will be similar yet a little bit different than selling the channels we're used to. I'm not going to get into specific strategies, but I could foresee some bundling and some integrations into existing APIs, right? Because all the CPaaS players, they master this ability of orchestrate and simplify complexities that exist in the marketplace. So at the end of the day, northbound, everything is already API driven. This should be just very transparent to the buyer. There's going to be different economic considerations, but there's also the need to process failover, fallback, and different capabilities.
I would add that education is necessary. I do think that with Mobile Connect, there is maybe some of a stepping stone from if these enterprises are already using this. But if they're not today, I think we all just heard a ton of great talking points about how AI, how fraud perpetrated by AI is becoming ever more present in our lives, and it's going to require different ways of acting and responding to it so that we don't all kind of get run over by it. I think also we need to continue to talk about the value points. I mean, nobody wants to buy an API. They want to buy a solution to their problem. They want to buy seamless user authentication. They want to buy secure user authentication. They want to buy knowledge that the person on the other side is who they say they are. I mean, if we put number verification on one end of kind of the recipient and we put RBM on the other end, then how much fraud could we actually reduce? And so I think it kind of, that's one way that we can look at tying all of these new technologies together and help kind of sell the story. I do think, and probably because one of my responsibilities is pricing in my role. So if I were to talk about pricing in a non-anti-competitive way, I would say that there's traditional kind of pricing models that we have on a per transaction basis with tiered pricing, and the more you use, the less it is on a per transaction basis, and that's great. But are there new innovative models that we can push? And I would say one of the things that Aduna is doing that is different than before, that we definitely heard support from the telcos at the summit for, is subscription pricing. How would that change your way to sell your products, whether it's authentication, whether it's a full-fledged messaging service, whatever your product is? How would you be able to sell more if you could buy from us at a subscription, a monthly subscription price, all you can eat? Right? What could that do for your business? And so I invite you all, if this is interesting to you, you want to know more, you're really excited about that, please come talk to me about it. I would love to hear your feedback as our current and potential customers on that. So I think pricing is a huge component of it. Marcelo mentioned bundling, and then I think tying all the technologies together and thinking about that end-to-end journey of fraud. How do we stop fraud from the sender? How do we prevent fraud at the recipient?
Yeah, and I think what he said, right? People don't buy an API. They don't go ask a CPaaS player, I want an SMS API. They want to communicate, they have a use case, they have a need to reach the eyeballs of, in this country, 340, 50 million people, right? And so means that complement their ability to communicate with the right people. Especially, we are seeing now RCS gaining adoption. I think there's going to be a lot of cross-pollination where certain use cases that will become more conversational over time, they will really amplify the need to make sure that I'm talking to the right person, that is the right brand communicating with me, that this seamless authentication that's happening behind the scenes by capabilities like number verify, like network authentication type of items, and ubiquity. I think that's where Aduna really plays a massive role here, getting that supply to everybody. If you're a CPaaS player, if you're a CSP, even the carriers, right? You win or lose the business on several other aspects of how you go about doing the business. But at the end of the day, all the boats rise with the tide getting higher.
I would love to ask the audience a question, if you don't mind, Matt.
Sure.
Show of hands, how many of you work in a company that operates globally? That's, I would say, like at least 90% of the people in here. So I'm assuming that you also have customers that operate globally. Yeah. So if we only had this in the US, some of your customers might be interested, but the other value that we bring is we offer this globally. So we are pushing the telcos to get number verification, SIM swap, device swap, KYC match, call forwarding signal available globally as soon as possible. We are corralling that roadmap not only within a country but across countries, because another thing that we heard over and over again from customers at the summit last week was one country is not enough. They operate globally. They want the APIs globally. TikTok, they want to be able to launch this seamless verification in every country that they're in, and they're in every country pretty much in the world. So that's the other kind of piece that the value proposition that we all are taking to the table is now we truly are going to have this globally. Forget Mobile Connect. It's now Kamara, it's now Aduna, it's Open Gateway, it's all of you in the room, tying all of these value propositions together to a really one kind of seamless global service.
And I want to give maybe a chance for some Q&A or question from the audience.
Please ask us the hard questions. It's what makes this more interesting.
You can target to Aduna. I'll take the easy ones.
Yeah, I can handle it. It's fine. It's fine.
But also, if not, I do want to kind of summarize some of the key themes that I'm hearing today. I think you talk about the commercial clarity, subscription pricing, things that have to be done to be able to scale this business further versus the technical depth. I mean, we have the API, there's certain KYC, SIM swap, and some of these applications that are available. I think that we don't need more. We can always have more, but I think it's more priority to kind of establish that, have a commercial clarity around those that we have today, so that the enterprise can adopt it. And I think that would scale the adoption. The other, I think, key summary that I heard also is the value proposition. It's not they're not buying, enterprise don't buy API for the sake of buying API. It has to solve a certain problem. So I think articulating that value proposition clearly to the enterprise is very key and important.
Yeah, it's the business outcome,
Yeah.
right? Is being able to do a certain set of tasks. Everything that we heard from the keynote presenter, I don't know that he wanted to scare anybody, but it's real, right? It's here. You fight AI with AI and having channels and having the ability to communicate in a seamless manner, make sure that there is trust. Back in the days, they used to say trust but verify. Well, now you have to verify and not trust anybody, right? It's just like even the numbers that Dario was showing for messaging that I personally felt they were a little deflated. They should be a little higher for the US. I think that's an indication that there are certain things the US sometimes is frowned upon, et cetera, but there's a lot of things that are done correctly in this market that enable those numbers to be what they are. I think we can scale that for network APIs. We can scale that for authentication. I'm assuming at some point we even stop talking about network APIs as a terminology, right? It's just a capability. It's out there, outside of this room. Probably not many people care about the technology itself. Like, can I do it? How much does it cost? What is the return of that investment? And then, the messaging channels. I'm a firm believer that people, the brands and the people, the end users ourselves, will elect in which channel we want to be communicated with, right? The US, for one reason or another, missed the boat on having an OTT predominant, which is probably good for the overall carrier ecosystem, which I'm very close to. But now with RCS, we finally have that tool. And when you bundle that together with these capabilities we're discussing on the panel, I think there's going to be a lot of goodness there for everybody.
I'm looking for a new name for network APIs, so if somebody has a really good suggestion, please tell me what it is.
Marketing brains, somebody?
Okay, I think we're running out of time, so I want to thank you both, Alicia, Marcelo, for joining me on stage, for helping us understand this better. So we talk about education is one of the key things. I think this is one of the reasons why we still talk about this, and we'll continue to be discussing this as well. Thank you very much. Please give a big hand for both. our panelists. Yeah.